A frantic call comes into 911 from a woman reporting her husband missing. Her voice quivers with what sounds like pure panic as she tells the dispatcher he planned to be gone for a week, and that he had warned her not to call him. But what the operator on the other end of the line doesn't know is that this woman has already confessed to his murder. The victim's body is out there somewhere in the vast Utah wilderness, buried in a makeshift grave, and the truth of what really happened behind the doors of their $1 million home is about to unravel a twisted story of lies, betrayal, and cold-blooded murder. Cottonwood Heights is a wealthy community nestled in the foothills of the Wasatch Mountains, just south of Salt Lake City, known for its tree-lined streets and immaculate homes. Its strong sense of community makes it the kind of town where families plant their roots, where kids ride their bikes through the cul-de-sacs, and everyone knows their neighbors by name. In this idyllic place lived Jennifer Gledhill and Matthew Johnson, who were raising their 3 children, aged 11, 7, and 5. To anyone on the outside, they looked like they had it all, and their $1 million home stood as proof of their perfect life. Matthew, at 51 years old, was a Green Beret with the Utah National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group, a decorated soldier who had served his country with honor for over 10 years. His fellow soldiers remember him as brilliant and reliable, the guy you could always count on for answers, the kind of soldier who embodied the Special Forces motto, De oppresso liber, to free the oppressed. He had dedicated his entire life to service, and those who served with him considered it a true honor. Jennifer, 42, seemed to be the perfect, devoted military wife and a caring mother. Matthew's friends described her as nice, if a bit of a homebody. She seemed perfectly happy in her role, supporting her husband's military career while raising their 3 kids. The family was always at social gatherings with Matthew's military colleagues. They shared meals, celebrated holidays and promotions, and by all accounts, they were a completely normal, happy family. But looks can be deceiving. By July of 2024, behind the carefully constructed facade of domestic bliss, the Johnson-Gledhill marriage was completely falling apart. The couple had started talking about divorce, though almost no one outside their immediate family knew how bad it had gotten. What people saw was a military family just dealing with the typical pressures of that life. What they couldn't see was a relationship that had devolved into what court documents would later call highly dysfunctional. In August 2024, Jennifer took a shocking step. She filed for a temporary protective order against Matthew, claiming she needed to be protected from her own husband. It was a serious accusation, one that could have had a huge impact on Matthew's military career and his relationship with his kids. But when the case went before 3rd District Commissioner Russell Minus, something totally unexpected happened. The commissioner went over the evidence Jennifer submitted with a fine-tooth comb, including videos and text messages that were supposed to show Matthew's threatening behavior. What he discovered told a completely different story. Commissioner Minus noted that the videos actually showed Jennifer as being unafraid and, in fact, just as confrontational toward Matthew. The text messages revealed a pattern of Jennifer constantly berating, belittling, and demeaning her husband. In the commissioner's opinion, the messages seemed intentionally designed to provoke Matthew into a violent reaction. On September 16, 2024, just 5 days before Matthew would be murdered, Commissioner Minus dismissed the protective order, ruling that no abuse had actually occurred. But in his written decision, he included words that now seem hauntingly prophetic. The conduct of the parties over the past several months is representative of a highly dysfunctional marriage, bringing out the worst in the parties, clearly suggestive that an action for divorce should have been filed long before reaching the current state of affairs. What Commissioner Minus didn't know was that Jennifer had already decided a divorce would never have to happen. In the last few weeks of his life, Matthew's behavior took a noticeable turn. According to his close friends, Jennifer's unpredictable behavior had become so unsettling that Matthew spent most of September crashing at a National Guard facility. He was genuinely afraid for his own safety inside his own home. Kevin Thompson, a retired Utah National Guardsman and one of Matthew's oldest friends, remembered one of the last conversations they ever had. Matthew, he said, had finally come to terms with the fact that a divorce was inevitable, and it was just time to move on. Matthew was ready for a new chapter, poised to leave the toxic marriage in his rearview mirror and focus on being the absolute best father he could be for his 3 children. But Matthew was in the dark about a crucial detail. He had no idea Jennifer was living a double life. Jennifer was deep in an affair, not just a casual fling or a momentary mistake, but an intense, all-consuming relationship that had taken over her thoughts and emotions. This other man, whose name would soon become central to the investigation, believed he truly knew Jennifer. He saw her as a woman trapped in an unhappy marriage, someone just looking for a real connection and some understanding. What he didn't realize was just how far Jennifer was willing to go to be free. On September 19th, 2024, just 2 days before the murder, Jennifer did something that should have set off every alarm bell. She showed her lover a loaded Glock 19X handgun that she kept inside the home. At the time, he probably didn't think anything of it. After all, many military families own firearms for protection, but prosecutors would later reveal that Jennifer was already scheming, calculating every move with methodical precision. She had already arranged for their 3 children to stay over at her parents' house on the night of September 20th. The kids would be safe. Their erection, she told herself. They wouldn't have to witness what she was planning to do. They wouldn't hear the gunshot that would irrevocably change their lives. The stage was being set for murder. September 20th, 2024, started off like any other day, but by that evening, the fragile facade of the Johnson-Gledhill marriage was about to shatter completely. Matthew had discovered the truth. He knew all about Jennifer's affair. Witnesses would later report hearing a massive argument erupt between the couple that night. Years of marital issues, months of dysfunction, and weeks of simmering tension, all exploded out into the open. According to Jennifer's own subsequent confession, Matthew confronted her, screaming at her, because he knew she had been sleeping with someone else. The argument was vicious. Voices were raised, and accusations flew. It was the kind of fight that ends marriages, but for Jennifer, it was the kind of fight that would end a life. Perhaps he figured they would continue the discussion in the morning, or maybe he thought they would finally begin the divorce proceedings. Maybe he just needed sleep after an emotionally brutal evening. He had no idea he would never wake up. In the early morning hours of September 21st, 2024, Matthew lay sleeping in the master bedroom. He was completely vulnerable, totally unaware of the grave danger he was in. The man who had faced enemy combatants while serving his country never could have imagined that the single greatest threat to his life was sleeping right next to him. Jennifer made her decision. She took Matthew's own 9mm handgun and, according to her own confession, shot her husband in the head while he slept. What happened next can only be described as chillingly methodical. There was no panic, no remorse, no moment of what have I done. Instead, Jennifer began executing a meticulously planned cover-up. She put Matthew's body into a rooftop storage container. Then, in what had to be an exhausting and gruesome task, she dragged the container down the stairs of their home. She then loaded her husband's body into the back of their family minivan, the very same vehicle she used to drive their children to school and their activities. She smashed Matthew's phone to bits to keep it from being tracked. She drove his truck to a nearby neighborhood and abandoned it, blocks from their home, to create the illusion that Matthew had simply walked out on his own. Then, in the pre-dawn darkness, Jennifer headed north, with her husband's body along for the ride. Deep in the sprawling wilderness of northern Utah, she scouted a spot isolated enough to bury him. She dug a shallow grave and placed the father of her children inside. Jennifer spent the next several hours scrubbing the master bedroom. She doused the walls in bleach, trying to wipe out any sign of blood spatter, and used carpet cleaners all over the room, working to erase the evidence of what she'd done. But she knew the mattress was too far gone to be saved. On September 24th, just 3 days after the murder, Jennifer ordered a new mattress from a website. It showed up 2 days later, and she quickly put it in place, getting rid of the one on which her husband had been murdered. But Jennifer's most catastrophic mistake was still to come, and Badia. On September 22nd, just shy of midnight, and barely 24 hours after the killing, Jennifer appeared at her lover's house. She felt compelled to confess, to tell someone what she had done. Maybe she was seeking forgiveness. Maybe she was looking for sympathy. Or maybe she just couldn't handle the weight of the secret all by herself. She spilled everything: how she ended Matthew's life, how she disposed of his body, and how she meticulously cleaned the crime scene. The man noticed bruises on Jennifer's body as they talked. When he asked about them, her answer was chillingly nonchalant. She claimed she got them while burying her husband and sanitizing the house of any evidence. Her lover was absolutely terrified. This woman he thought he knew had just confessed to a cold-blooded murder, with an almost detached air. But his next move would become a pivotal moment in the case. Jennifer's lover was so rattled by her confession that he decided he had to record their next phone conversation. The call was recorded at 11:47 p.m., and what Jennifer said on that recording would seal her fate for good. When he confessed to Jennifer that he was scared by what she'd told him, her answer revealed just how profoundly she had broken from reality. "Wow. If you think I could even hurt a fly," she said. "He's not a person. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt." She had stripped her husband of his humanity so completely that his death meant absolutely nothing to her. The man she had married, the father of her own children, the decorated soldier who served his country with honor, was simply no longer a person in her mind. He was just an obstacle that had to be removed. But Jennifer's disturbing admissions didn't end there. When her lover asked if she would be afraid, if the roles were reversed, Jennifer responded with words that would become some of the most haunting evidence in the entire case. "Not if I deserved it. I always preached that I was like the Queen of Hearts in my past lives because I'm like, off with their heads. I'm like, if we could just round up the scum of this earth and put them on an island or just take them all out, I could get this country back in shipshape." Jennifer then had the nerve to ask her lover not to think of her as a monster and to remember who she was before she had confessed. The irony was off the charts. She was asking for compassion moments after admitting she murdered the father of her children in cold blood. What made this conversation even more damning was its timing. This phone call was made before Matthew was even officially on the books as a missing person. Jennifer was already talking about her husband in the past tense, even though no one else on earth was supposed to know he was dead. Her lover kept collecting evidence. He screenshotted their text messages. He recorded their phone calls. And on October 2nd, 2024, he finally reached out to the police with the information that would blow the case wide open. Meanwhile, on September 23rd, the Utah National Guard had launched a search for Matthew when he didn't report for duty. This was completely unheard of for a dedicated soldier with over a decade of flawless service. His brothers in arms, the Green Berets, were worried. They started working the phones, trying to track down their friend and colleague. It wasn't until September 28th, it was a full week after the murder, before Jennifer finally reported Matthew missing to the police, claiming he'd said he would be gone for a week. She added that he had specifically instructed her not to call him, an explanation that might have seemed reasonable to any casual observer. But for the investigators who were about to uncover the truth, it was nothing more than a carefully crafted lie. On September 28th, Cottonwood Heights police executed a search warrant on the Johnson Gledhill home, and what they discovered told a story vastly different from the one Jennifer was spinning. In the master bedroom, detectives located a large blood stain on the carpet hidden underneath the bed, and more blood was found on the bed frame slats. The placement and pattern of the blood perfectly corroborated what Jennifer had confessed to her lover about shooting Matthew while he slept. The house reeked of bleach, and reddish-brown spots were still visible on the walls, bed frame, and blinds. It was clear evidence of blood spatter that someone had tried, and failed, to completely clean away. The most telling detail, however, was that the mattress was brand new. Phone records confirmed Jennifer had ordered it on September 24th. That was just 3 days after the murder, and it had been delivered only 2 days later. The timing was absolutely damning. GPS data from Jennifer's phone painted an even more vivid picture, showing her traveling to the exact location where Matthew's truck was later found. This occurred at around 6 a.m. on September 21st, and later that same day, her phone tracked her journey north toward Davis County, precisely where she had claimed to have buried his body. On October 2nd, 2024, armed with recorded confessions and overwhelming physical evidence, the police arrested Jennifer Gledhill on charges of first-degree murder. They also charged her with obstruction of justice, but the investigation was a long way from being over. On October 24th, 2024, police made 2 more arrests that sent shockwaves through the community. Jennifer's parents, Thomas Gledhill, age 71, and Rosalie Gledhill, at age 67, Rosalie, along with her husband, was charged with 4 counts of obstruction of justice after the investigation revealed the couple had spent over 5 hours at Jennifer's house in late September. This directly contradicted their initial claim that they were only there for less than an hour to pick up some clothing. So what were they really up to? Investigators discovered that Rosalie had purchased the new mattress. Even more suspiciously, she had her phone remotely wiped during the cleanup period, erasing all data about her whereabouts and activities. It was a digital cover-up intended to match the physical one. When police questioned Thomas about the master bedroom and the supposed cleanup, his own words gave away more than he ever intended. "I did not go in where the incident happened," he stated. He inadvertently revealed knowledge of a crime scene, a detail that had not been publicly disclosed. Police found the Glock 19X gun box wrapped in a child's onesie and hidden inside a plastic tote near Jennifer's bedroom. The container was a perfect match to the description of the gun Jennifer had shown off to her lover on September 19th, just 2 days before she used it to take her husband's life. The perfect murder Jennifer had planned was now a family affair, but their tangled web of lies was quickly unraveling. Months have now passed since Jennifer's arrest, but Matthew Johnson's body is still missing. The search for this decorated soldier has since become one of the most extensive in recent Utah history. Search efforts have spanned multiple counties, stretching from Davis and Weber counties all the way to Box Elder County, near the Utah-Idaho border. Over 70 searchers have been involved in the ongoing efforts, a mix of law enforcement, volunteers, and Matthew's own military buddies. These friends have even organized their own search parties. These are the men who served alongside Matthew, who trusted him with their very lives in dangerous situations. These were the men who considered him a brother. Now, they are the ones searching fields, forests, and remote areas, hoping to finally bring their friend home. During recent court hearings, prosecutors revealed that a vehicle storage container had been discovered floating in the water. Inside, it contained Matthew's blood, providing yet another piece of physical evidence that linked Jennifer directly to the crime. However, Matthew's body has yet to be found. The search continues to broaden across northern Utah as law enforcement pursues every single lead, desperate to finally bring Matthew home to his family. Jennifer Gledhill has pleaded not guilty to every charge filed against her. She is facing 1 count of first-degree murder, C, 5 counts of obstructing justice, 1 count of possession of a controlled substance, 1 count for the abuse or desecration of a human body, and 1 count of tampering with a witness. During her bail hearing, prosecutors contended that Jennifer posed a significant threat to the community and to the overall integrity of the investigation. They revealed she had told her lover she would end her own life before she'd ever go to jail, a statement showcasing both her desperation and her potential for further violence. The judge sided with the prosecution, and ultimately denied Jennifer's request for bail, noting that she was indeed a risk to the community. She remains in custody at the Salt Lake County Jail as she awaits trial. Adding yet another layer of complexity to this case is the matter of Matthew's $500,000 life insurance policy, which lists Jennifer as the beneficiary. With Jennifer facing murder charges and Matthew's body still missing, Prudential has now petitioned the court to determine who should legally receive the payout. It's a grim reminder that on top of destroying lives, Jennifer's actions have spawned a tangled web of legal and financial problems. Jennifer's trial is slated to begin on December 8, 2025, and is expected to last for 8 days. The prosecution's case against her appears to be airtight. They have Jennifer's recorded confession and physical evidence from the crime scene, along with GPS data tracking her movements, the testimony of her lover, and evidence that her own parents helped to cover up the crime. The prosecution's theory is both straightforward and chilling. Jennifer Gledhill killed her husband because he found out about her affair, and she wanted to be free to be with her lover. Instead of navigating a messy divorce that could have involved shared custody and financial obligations, she chose murder. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of this entire case is the 3 children who have effectively lost both parents, one to murder, the other to prison. These children, currently aged 11, 7, and 5, will have to grow up with the terrible knowledge that their own mother killed their father. They will live knowing their grandparents helped conceal the crime. They will never have another Christmas morning with their father, never have him watch proudly at their graduations, never have him walk them down the aisle or meet his future grandchildren. Through their victim's advocate, saying, "We are hopeful that we will find Matt soon, or that Jennifer, or someone, will come forward with the location of his body so we can properly lay him to rest." It's a simple plea for closure, but one that Jennifer has refused to answer. Even now, looking at a life sentence, she refuses to tell authorities where Matthew's body is located. It's a final, brutal act of cruelty toward the man she once promised to love and honor. As we await Jennifer Gledhill's trial in December of 2025, one question continues to haunt everyone involved in this case. How does a mother of 3 justify wrecking so many lives for the sake of an affair? It's possible we will never fully comprehend the depths of Jennifer Gledhill's selfishness and cruelty. Perhaps there is no explanation that could ever make sense of such a senseless act. What we do know for sure is that her actions have left wounds that will never completely heal. Justice may be served in a courtroom, but Matthew Johnson is never coming home to his children. He will never get to see them grow up. He will never hold his grandchildren. And somewhere in northern Utah, a devoted father and soldier lies in an unmarked grave, waiting for someone to finally tell the truth about where he can be found. This has been the case of Jennifer Gledhill, 19-1 where, 19-1 where, a story of betrayal, murder, and a family completely torn apart by one woman's refusal to face the consequences of her actions. Matthew Johnson served his country with honor. He deserved better, his children deserved better, and his final resting place remains unknown, somewhere out in the vast Utah wilderness. He's still waiting to finally be brought home.